Welcome to the Dr. K Show. I am Dr. Michael Karlfeldt, a naturopathic doctor with nearly 4 decades of clinical experience, author and owner of the Karlfeldt Center. Here, we dive deep into the worlds of health, consciousness, self-improvement, spirituality, and the topics others might shy away from. Every week, I'll bring you thought-provoking discussions with leading authors, groundbreaking scientists, Nobel Prize winners, and experts shaping the future of our understanding. Together, we'll explore ideas that inspire transformation and elevate your health and purpose. Don't forget to check out the free ebook, The Science and Spirit of Transformation, available in the show notes. It's packed with actionable insights to help you on your journey of self-discovery and optimal health. And while you're here, hit follow, leave a review, and share the show with someone who needs a dose of inspiration today. Well, I'm excited. We are going to have an amazing conversation today. I have with me Miguel Bautista today. Miguel, thank you so much for spending some time with me.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Michael, thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
So you had an organization called, CFS Recovery. And so obviously, usually there's always a story behind before you focus and put so much energy and love into helping people that are battling chronic fatigue syndrome. So do you mind just kind of sharing your journey a little bit?
Absolutely. I would love to. And first off, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on. I've listened to your show, and what you're building here is something really special. And I just wanted to acknowledge you for that, because I know what you're doing isn't easy. It takes a lot of time and energy and effort to create this stuff, but you're having a huge impact, over 50 shows. So I'm just honored to be a part of this. And last thing before I jump into it, for everybody listening right now or watching, just do me a huge favor, go leave a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you're tuning in from, so Dr. Michael can impact even more people. So
thank you. I mean, should I pay you extra for that? Or
No. This was not a paid ad too. This is, I already did my review on Apple Podcasts the other day, so come join me, guys. But
yeah. Thank you so much, Miguel. I appreciate it. And that's exactly that. I mean, we people see us more, it's kind of higher in rankings. So when people do searches, these podcasts become more visible. So the podcasts that you love and you feel that you're getting great information from, and you feel that other people could benefit from, you leaving a review and 5-star, that helps other people. It becomes more visible. So just kind of know that as a habit for whatever podcast you listen to. And obviously, I'm biased because I love the people that I get to interview. Like this powerful gentleman that we're going to hear from right now.
Yeah, so go leave that review, guys. And myself, just a quick introduction. My name is Miguel Bautista. I run CFS Recovery, and recovering from mysterious, debilitating symptoms like brain fog, where no matter how much they sleep and you wake up feeling mentally drained, and also the crazy fatigue where no matter how much you rest, you still feel like a zombie, along with dozens and dozens of other symptoms that just don't make sense. It can feel very isolating and sometimes even hopeless. It's very confusing for people. And for people dealing with that, they want nothing more than to get back to who they used to be, right? And many people who are sick, they struggle to find answers that actually work, while also being told it's all in their head, and they end up trapped in the cycle of surviving instead of thriving, losing years of their life to an illness that nobody seems to understand. So what I do is I help them fully recover using nervous system-based approaches and neuroplasticity, so they can get their lives back and really live again as a 2.0 version of themselves. So myself, a little bit of my background, we've worked with thousands of individuals. We have over 5,000 testimonials and 50 hours of recovery case studies helping people. But myself, I'm actually recovered from my own health journey. I found out I had a very hypersensitive nervous system issue. I dealt with 50 plus symptoms myself. I was even bedridden for 8 months straight. I was even hospitalized. I had to learn how to use a wheelchair and a walker and really build my life from scratch. And today I don't have any more symptoms. And what I'm most proud of is watching people just cry tears of gratitude for being able to just feel the wind on their face again, to spend time at the dinner table with family without pain and symptoms, or to get back into exercising or traveling the world again. So just helping people rediscover who they are beyond the illness, and not only just getting their lives back, but becoming the 2.0 version of themselves. That's what really gets me fired up. And lastly, you know what I really find interesting, Dr. Michael, people see my life now and they say, wow, you do so much, Miguel. You can exercise, you could travel, you run a health organization. Like, what's the secret sauce? What's the secret medication or the magic silver bullet? But I'll tell you one thing, Dr. Michael, like, there's no secret one thing. It's a few things combined. And my life today, it's awesome. I'm very grateful for it. I am living my best life, but it's been a long, long journey to get here, which I'm happy to dive into.
Well, so you're saying 50 symptoms, bedridden, having to use wheelchair. You look like a young, strapping man, that's full of life, and here, so it's just hard to picture you, as I see you now, being in that position. That it's just hard to picture.
Yeah, it is wild. People see me today and they don't even believe I ever had those symptoms because, I'm actually way more active than I used to be. But with all the people I talk to, I see a lot of myself in them. And that's kind of what drives me and motivates me to help people, is because I was once that person who woke up, immediately just scan the body for symptoms, immediately think, how the heck am I going to get through the day? Because I can't get out of bed, can't even feed myself, can't even brush my teeth. I haven't showered in a month. And ultimately, it leaves you feeling very powerless, especially, and we can get into it, the type of people who can develop some of these illnesses: type A personality, analytical people, perfectionists, sometimes very hard on themselves, sometimes struggle to set boundaries. And ultimately that leads to them kind of overdoing it until their brain or their nervous system forces them to slow down in the form of symptoms. But when people don't know that it's their body trying to protect them, as long as they've had their tests and scans done and they ruled everything else out, they don't realize this is their body actually trying to protect them. And that's where we come in and we try to help educate people about that and just reframe the whole experience and give them a roadmap out of it. But yeah, I was right in the trenches not too long ago.
And so this is Miguel 2.0. So tell me about 1.0. What is different?
Yeah. So 1.0 Miguel, I think, like a lot of people listening to this right now, here's what I see people do over and over again. And, this isn't a shot at them, or they don't have to feel bad if they hear these things, because I made these same mistakes. This is typically the journey people follow. But, first, you're living life quite fast, right? You're very busy. You're go. You're in that mindset of, I'm just going to push through everything, right? And maybe that led to a lot of great things in life, achievements, good grades in school, sports achievements, career advancement. But at some point, when you stack on these stressors, eventually, you can end up not hitting a wall at first, but you start to hit these speed bumps. Then your nervous system starts to try to slow you down and says, we're going to throw on more fatigue, a little bit more brain fog, maybe a few headaches here and there, or maybe some insomnia or anxiety. And the problem with the way our brains work, especially type A people, will see these signals from the body, these symptoms, as almost like a challenge of like, oh, okay, that means I need to go twice as hard. Let me double down. I'll push, because that's what worked for everything else. And that leads to them eventually hitting a wall where they do end up going to the hospital or get severe symptoms, and it just gets exacerbated. And so that's when they really fall into this cycle. For me, it was working as a personal trainer, like 60 hours a week in the gym from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and not sleeping enough, not eating right, energy drinks, coffees, but most of all, the internal pressure I put on myself to like be the best version of myself. And I thought that's what it was. I thought me over pushing, doing that sacrifice, the blood, sweat, and tears, I thought that was the way to get the most out of life. But I learned pretty quickly that that's how you kind of run yourself into the ground. And so for me, one day I was just studying in the library and I took this energy drink. Next thing you know, my heart rate goes through the roof. It goes to 180. They call in the paramedics. There's 8 of them there and I can't breathe. My heart rate's not going down. I can't see straight. And eventually they rushed me to the hospital. The crazy part though is through all the scans and tests, they said, Miguel, you're perfectly fine. You just need to drink some electrolytes. You'll be okay. And like a lot of people listening right now, if they've experienced something similar to this, like there's something that triggers this kind of domino effect. Sometimes one experience and then you start to become pretty scared of your own body. But that's where my life changed for the next 5 years after that, where there was a lot of debilitating symptoms that I dealt with, a crazy journey I had to go through.
So 5 years? It took you were in that kind of a state for 5 years?
So I actually got better sometimes. So I would go off work for 6 months because I couldn't even like cook for myself or do laundry without flaring up. Then I'd work my way back to work again for another 6 months, then hit a wall, go off work because I ended up in the hospital. So I did that about 5 times, almost every year until the last time I couldn't even walk. Like spoon-fed by 75-year-old grandma. She's wiping me down in the shower, and the doctor's telling me there's nothing they could do. So it was crazy.
And when because the first time, the doctor said everything's fine. Here's some electrolytes. There's nothing wrong with you. I'm curious, kind of medically. I mean, symptom-wise, you had all of this going on, but lab tests, imaging, was there anything at any time that showed up that there's anything medically wrong with you, through that lens?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a few things that showed up, but didn't really lead to anything helpful. I think, like a lot of people, you do all the testing, you do all the scans, and you're looking for something to show up. And sometimes there's something out of range. Or like, for example, some people, their adrenals, their cortisol is completely tanked. So they look at it as adrenal fatigue, or their thyroid is slightly out of range. But that alone doesn't explain 40 or 50 symptoms and the inconsistency of symptoms as well that go up and down. So the biggest thing is like the downward spiral people catch themselves in. What I see over and over again, and I want to be clear again, I did all of this myself, so I'm not judging anybody. This is the path most of us take, but first they chase diagnosis, right? They go from specialist to specialist, hoping somebody is finally going to tell them what's wrong. So you go to a rheumatologist, neurologist, endocrinologist, they get the blood work, the MRIs, the sleep studies, Holter monitors, and the tests keep coming back, quote unquote, normal. So now they don't just feel sick physically, they actually start to feel like they're going crazy. And, people look at them like they're making it up. It's a very dark place to be. And once that happens, the second thing they do is they try to become their own doctor, right? And so they'll Google symptoms, right? They'll Google symptoms, they'll endlessly research, they'll join Facebook groups and forums. And I wonder how many people who are listening to this right now, I wonder if you spent more time Googling your symptoms than actually living your life. If you canceled plans at the last minute because you didn't know if your body would cooperate, I want you to know that's not a character flaw. That's not a weakness. That's like your nervous system in high alert, trying to fix you, right? Trying to find solutions. And the cool part is it is fixable, right? And so the third thing people try to do when none of that is working, they're Googling, nothing's working, they're trying supplements and tests, spending a lot of money on things that aren't working, then they just try to willpower their way through it. They try to push through. They think if they just exercise more or force themselves to be positive or power through like they used to, they'll just break out of it. Usually when people find us online, this is kind of where they're at. It's at the third step. They've tried pushing through, but they keep crashing. And then every time they crash, they feel like they're getting worse and worse. Or they'll do one small thing and then it's like they're back to square one. So they can become terrified to try anything new or to even move because they don't know what's going to set them off. And so why none of that works is, we're just treating the symptoms. It's just treating surface level things. They don't actually address the source, the root cause. And at least from what we've seen, as long as people have had their tests and scans done and the doctors have cleared them and they're saying on paper, you're good to go, then, it's safe to say that in many cases, it's just a nervous system stuck in survival mode, not thrival mode. It's just very limited. And it's what we call a chronic threat response. So the body isn't actually broken. It's actually doing exactly what it's designed to do when it perceives danger. The problem is it doesn't know how to turn that sensitivity off unless you address that, right? Until you teach your nervous system that it's safe to come out of survival mode. Because if you don't address the root cause, then nothing really sticks. The supplements don't stick. The treatments don't stick. The good, quote unquote, good days don't stick. But once you understand this, everything changes. And recovery actually becomes a process with actual steps, not just, this mystery you're hoping to solve by accident.
So, your story, I hear that story so many times. And the sad part is that, you have the doctors, they're running labs and there's nothing that's showing, obviously, because there's very limited in regards to labs and things that they're doing. There may be other things that they can do. But then, the conclusion frequently becomes, well, you got to be depressed, you're anxious, there's some things I hear, take some, antidepressants or some anti-anxiety medication and that will fix it. And this is, for people listening out there, this tends to be like a brush off, because they don't know what to do with you. So here, take some antidepressants, just so that they feel they can give you something, and that becomes really frustrating. I don't know if they proposed that for you as well at some point.
Yeah, a lot of doctors did, especially in the beginning. But I was very lucky because, well, I say lucky, but this was about the 40th doctor / specialist that I saw. And when I met him, that's where everything changed for me. But in order to get there, like just to paint a picture for people, like, how did I turn it around? Because I was in a hospital. I couldn't feed myself. So like what happened, and we see this with a lot of people, there is that kind of aha moment where it starts to click and you really go from surviving to really moving towards thriving. And so for me, leading up to that big turning point, I was living with my grandparents. I couldn't feed myself, couldn't cook, couldn't even take a shower for sometimes a month at a time. And it was my grandma and grandpa taking care of me. And my worst fear was that something would happen to them as I was sick. Turns out my worst fear came true because the guy who was helping brush my teeth, wipe me down and feed me every day, he actually had a stroke and he passed away, my grandpa, right? And he was there with me in the trenches. He would be praying over me every night saying, we're looking for a miracle here. We know a miracle is coming. And they would pray over me. And then the guy I looked up to passed away. And as I held his hand, he passed away. And so that was a lot on my nervous system. And that's what led to this cascade of, I was at home bedridden, couldn't function, to, okay, now I can't even digest food. I'm drinking my meals through a straw, not a straw, but blended meals at this point. I can't roll over in bed. I feel like I'm being electrocuted 24/7. So eventually we call the ambulance. They bring me. And then for the next month, I spent it in ICU. And you just wake up every day, look, if you can even sleep, that is. But there are those deep moments where you're thinking the things that people never say out loud. Things like, what am I still doing here? Like, what is the whole point of this? I'm just waking up suffering every day. Can I ever walk again? Am I ever going to have my life back? Right? At that time, I was 22 years old, and I'm like, I kind of accepted it. I was like, I lived a good life, I guess. I don't see a way out. But after a month and running every test they could, and I'm just holding on for dear life, like my spirit is at very close to its breaking point here. They say, Miguel, you're not going to die. Your organs are actually okay. So we can either send you home, or if you want to try working with a doctor, a psychiatrist here, we have extra rooms actually in the psych ward. And I was like, wait. I'm going to the psych ward? I'm not crazy though. Like, I can think straight. And they're like, no, we get that. It's just the extra beds. We have no more space for you in ICU. So you can volunteer to sleep in there so you can meet the doctor every day. I said, you know what? I don't really have a choice, because at this point, if I go home, I don't think I'm going to make it. So this is the next best option. So they wheel me over there. I can't move. But anyways, the psychiatrist, he looks at me and he says, he has this binder full of all of my tests and scans. And he says, you know what? I know exactly what's going on with you. You're not dying, and you're not going to die. You're going to be okay, because all of it, it's a hypersensitive nervous system. That's why all your organs are coming back perfectly fine. Your brain is just sending the wrong signals to your body. And then I was in bed. I was like, wait a minute. At least he's the first doctor who said he actually knows what's going on. And so we would work together. He'd come to my bed, explain stuff to me, draw stuff on a paper, because I was a visual learner. He's like, this is what's happening. And within a week, I was sitting up in a wheelchair feeding myself. A week after that, I was using a walker. A week after that, I was standing on my own 2 feet. And then, a month after meeting him, they released me from the hospital. It was a day after my 23rd birthday. And that's when I had a new lease on life, essentially. But the most important thing he told me was, it was the golden rule of recovery, which is your success, Miguel, is determined by how well you respond to symptoms. If you can respond well and not downward spiral, and you can neutralize those emotions, because those emotions, that's what's fueling these symptoms. If you can respond well, you're going to get your life back. And so that's kind of the foundational principle that we've taught thousands of people, and what we build into their recoveries. And that was the turning point for me, realizing that my organs were actually okay. My body's not slowly dying, this torturous experience. All it was like a software glitch, because my nervous system and brain, he was like, it's like a software. Yours is just very hypersensitive. Like if you were to drive a Formula One car in downtown, you're guaranteed to hit something. It's just too sensitive. So what we need to do is we need to down-regulate your nervous system, or you could call it regulate it, because it's just way too sensitive. Like we turn the lights on, you have an instant migraine. We close the door, you have ringing in your ears for hours. That's why I had to wear earplugs 24/7. And so all we need to do, Miguel, is we need to update the software of your brain and nervous system so we can override that glitch. But it's completely fixable, and you could absolutely get your life back. So that was the turning point for me. And I wonder how many people, have realized that their physical body, like their organs, are actually okay, and it's actually a problem with the way the brain is communicating to the body.
I'm trying to kind of, and I'm sure the listeners as well. I mean, here you're in bed, can't feed yourself, can't move, can't walk, and none of that. And just through a realization, all of a sudden things start to change, or were there kind of exercises or meditations, or what did you do? I mean, he would come by your bedside and draw something. I mean, what was kind of the practical day-by-day thing that you did in order to be able to change that trajectory?
Yeah. So the biggest thing was learning what was even going on, because what most people do is they're not even really open to the idea that it could be a brain miscommunication with a body, that it's actually coming from in between, like inside their head, from their brain. I had to really accept that, an external fix wasn't going to cure this thing. It might help. Like supplements and medications, they could definitely help. Like I was on some medications, but even my doctor said, this is going to account for maybe 10% of your recovery. And what most people do is they push that responsibility on an external source. Something else is going to fix me. Someone else is going to fix me, right? It's not until they flip that and kind of take full responsibility and take their power back and say, okay, nothing else is going to fix me. This, I got to fix this thing. And it's coming from the brain. Once I realized that, okay, there's actually logic to what's going on. There's an explanation for these symptoms versus feeling like I was going to die every time I felt symptoms. That changed everything for me. Because when most people experience those heart palpitations or the brain fog or the real fatigue when 2 or 3 p.m. rolls around and you're just floored, you start to get worried and you start to wonder, like, am I broken? Am I a rare case where I got this rare thing that the doctors can't figure out? Because on paper, I'm fine through the blood test, but something's clearly wrong. And so it can become pretty scary. Like you can start to get hyper fixed on the symptoms, and ultimately that leaves you feeling pretty anxious all day. And that interferes with life. So the moment it actually starts to make sense, that alone takes off a lot of the stress from your nervous system that you may not even realize is happening, because you don't feel like you're walking on eggshells every second of the day. It actually starts to make sense. And so the more he taught me, the more he helped me understand where the symptoms even came from, why they were flaring up. What does it even look like to go from wheelchair to using a walker? What does that look like? That really helped. And here's a golden tip for your audience. Most people, when they try to do more, try to add activity, they kind of just push through, right? They say, okay, I'm going to start working out, then I'm going to do this, I'm going to keep going and keep going. They won't really add breaks in throughout the days or weeks, because that's just how they're wired. It's like black and white. It's all or nothing. It's like pedal to the metal or we're not going at all. The problem with that is that's exactly why people get this in the first place. It's because that personality it's just so extreme. So you want to find a middle ground. And the way at least I approached it and what we've seen to be really helpful is I call it a progress cycle. Right? And each progress cycle, you do get stronger and stronger and add capacity in different areas of life, depending on what you work on. But essentially, you add an activity. So a very simple example is walking. You'd walk for, 5 minutes. Let's say someone's housebound, have them walk for 5 minutes or 2 minutes just outside their house. It's almost like exposure therapy. Sometimes people will flare up from that. Then they have to dial it back a little bit, right? And take it easy, take a little rest. And then they might be having symptoms. That's where they really have to respond well emotionally. So their nervous system has space to adapt to that new level of stimulus. So next time they walk a little bit further. It's very similar to exercising. I wonder how many people in here have tried exercising before or got on a fitness program. And let's say they had a goal to do 20 push-ups. It's rare that you just go in there day one, or let's say 50 push-ups. Very rare to go in there day one and you knock out 50 in a row, right? And if you tried to do that, you probably injure yourself or strain something. The proper way to go about it is you do like 10 or 15 or 20. Then you take a break. Maybe you do some more, right? Or maybe you can only get 15 the first day. Then what happens after, right? You go home. Why? To let your body rest and recover. You don't go back the next day and do another 20 push-ups. You let it rest until your body is not sore anymore. Then you go back and you have this progressive overload. So very similar with the nervous system. You want to have almost progressive overload in terms of activities, but people can also miss on like the emotional and the cognitive aspects. Because with screen times, that's also stimulation. And emotionally, how are you responding to the symptoms, right? Because if you're not responding well, that's what can keep you in the cycle of flaring up. If you are responding well, your nervous system will adapt to those new levels of stimulation.
Yeah, and then yeah, you talked about screen time. Yeah, a lot of people then when they're resting or thinking they're resting, they're sitting there scrolling, watching reels or looking Facebook or things like that. And it is essentially depleting the nervous system, depleting dopamine. And so you're not resting at that time. So like what you're saying is that, being out of nature, sunshine, doing other type of activities, I mean, that will restore the nervous system, but, looking at a screen, it definitely doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just to drive the point home of like how people ended up in this position in the first place with some debilitating symptoms, and it doesn't mean you're completely bedridden, it doesn't mean you can't walk. Maybe you're not as bad as I was, but it's definitely getting in the way of life and just overall quality of life, right? So there's someone listening to this right now who used to be the most driven, active person in their circle, the one who never sat still, always working, always moving, just always showing up, the one everybody could rely on. And maybe they were an athlete or a top performer at work, and then something happened, right? Maybe it was COVID, maybe it was years of pushing too hard. Maybe they don't even know what triggered it. But now they can barely make it through the day without needing to lie down. And they've seen 10, 20, maybe 30 specialists. They spend thousands on supplements and treatments, and every single test comes back, quote unquote, normal. And they're sitting there thinking, if nothing's wrong with me, why does it feel like, I could barely function? And so they probably stopped making plans because they don't know if their body will cooperate. Like they've watched birthdays and holidays and life happen, but they watch it from the sidelines. And the worst part is they start to believe that this is just who they are now. But here's what I want them to know. On the other side of this is a version of them that does wake up and actually wants to get out of bed, actually jump out of bed. A version of them that is hiking with their family and friends. They're back at work doing what they love. And they're not tracking every symptom. They're not second guessing every decision. And they're just not watching life through a window anymore. They're in life, living it again. And what I help people understand is that with this whole journey, if we zoom out and look at it as a whole, this may feel like a darker chapter in their life, but who you become after this, it's absolutely amazing. Because we've seen people who are bedridden, like not just myself, but bedridden, spoon-fed, hospitalized for years. And then within a year, they're skiing again. They're traveling. There was this, I remember this lady from Germany. She was sick for, it was over 15 years. A lot of that time she was in a wheelchair. And when we first started with her, her only task, well, one of her main tasks, was to step outside on her balcony and just hold a railing. So that's where we started. Just stand up for 1 minute. Her name was Suzanne. Stand up for 1 minute. Okay. So she'd send us pictures and updates and share it with the community, and everyone was so fired up. And then as the months go on, you see these pictures of her with her grandchildren and her friends and family, and she's going to church with her husband. And one thing that really brought a tear to my eye was it was Christmas time. And that's when a lot of people are sharing their wins, but she had a picture opening presents with her grandchildren. And she had this huge smile on her face, no wheelchair in sight. And there was another picture of her like carrying her grandchild, like in her arms, almost like throwing her up in the air. And she was like, there was a time I didn't think this would be possible again. And so to see that, just the possibility for somebody and the big smile they have on their face, it makes it all worth it. And for someone listening to this right now, as hard as it may feel, as difficult as the times may be, and sometimes you feel like you're at rock bottom, but I always told myself this, the harder you hit rock bottom, the higher you bounce. And it's kind of the universe testing you to see like, okay, we want to give this person an exceptional life, but we want to see if they're ready for it, and that's how I looked at it. And almost everybody we see and everybody we've helped, thousands of people who come out the other side, they say it's one of the best things that ever happened to them. Obviously difficult to say that when you're in the fire, but after the fire, you're like, that was the most extreme personal development journey I ever did. because that's the only way to get out of it, is to level up who you are as a person, the 2.0 version of yourself.
And so, because this, I mean, we're talking about chronic fatigue syndrome now, but I mean, to me, this was translate pretty much across the board, because it seems like, what you were doing wrong is that, initially was that you started to then focus on the symptoms, and then starting to then the nervous system start to spiral as you were focusing on the symptoms. And then by disconnecting from that, because obviously there are a lot of people out there, whether they're kind of having a pain or dealing with cancer or dealing whatever it may be, and as we're focusing on on those symptoms, then we're giving that power, and we're creating, it sounds like, dysregulation in your nervous system. And obviously, we know there's a direct correlation between your mindset, your nervous system, your immune system, your hormonal system. I mean, they're all interconnected. So by intervening in that phase, the mind to the nervous system, you're then able to then impact the other aspects of the body, your thyroid, your hormones, your testosterone, estrogen, your white blood cells. All of that is you're able to then impact.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It can become a very quick, not quick, but an accelerating downward spiral, if you don't get control of it.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to help people realize that, interrupt that pattern.
And so where can people learn? Obviously, you have a huge community. You've helped thousands of people. Where can people go in order to be able to learn more what you do, and then also learn about these techniques? Because I mean, to me, this seems extremely valuable, not just, again, for chronic fatigue syndrome people, but I would say for everyone.
Yeah, we have tons of resources online. We have a free YouTube channel. I have almost 2,000 videos on there covering pretty much every symptom you could think of. But Dr. Michael, one thing I love about you is you're constantly showing up for your audience and giving massive value. So that inspired me to do the same. I want to give everybody listening here something I've never offered before. What I'm about to share is something that I don't share this publicly, and it's something I reserve for our premium members inside of our recovery systems. My clients might actually be upset that I'm giving this away, but I just wanted to over-deliver for your audience. It's something called a recovery roadmap kit. So it's not for somebody who just wants a magic pill or a quick fix, right? If you're looking for something that's going to cure you overnight without any effort on your part, this isn't it, because recovery is a process. It does take time. It's also not for somebody who isn't willing to look at things differently. Like if you've already decided nothing can help you, you tried everything, and your situation is different from all the thousands of other people who have recovered, I can't override that belief. But if you're listening to this right now, it's probably not you. If you are listening to this and you are somebody who is dealing with some mysterious debilitating symptoms, which a lot of the time is CFS or long COVID, and you feel like you're doing all the right things, like you're following advice and trying protocols, resting when you're told to rest, pushing when you're told to push, but nothing is actually moving the needle, and that has you feeling confused and just frustrated, just second guessing every decision you make, this is for you. Here's what most people don't realize. Recovery, it's not about just doing more. It's about doing the right things at the right stage. And if you don't know what stage you're in, you can end up wasting some precious energy or making things worse without even knowing it. So here's what you have access to. Part 1 is called the Recovery Stage Identifier. It's a very short diagnostic assessment, shows you exactly where your nervous system sits on the recovery journey, why what you've been doing hasn't worked, and also what you should actually be focusing on right now. And for most people, this alone is the biggest relief they've felt in months, because there's no more guessing, no more random trial and error of where they're at in recovery. But part 2 is what I'm most excited about. And honestly, this is the one I debated whether to include, because I might get some heat from the clients from this. But it's called the personalized recovery report. It's the exact internal tool we use with our premium clients. It's never been available outside that program, but it's a detailed, personalized analysis based on your responses and your situation that maps out the specific patterns keeping your nervous system stuck. So it shows you what you need to change, what to double down on, and the exact order those changes need to happen in. So it's not a quiz result, it's a real decision-making framework for recovery. So here's how to get it. I actually set up a page specifically for this podcast at www.cfsrecovery.co/Dr. K Show. So DRKSHOE. I just please ask that you guys don't share it around because this is only for you guys. So once again, if you want the recovery stage identifier and the personalized recovery report, head over to www.cfsrecovery.co/Dr. K Show, and you'll be able to get immediate access to that. Little gift to you guys.
What an amazing gift. I mean, that's incredible. And for all listeners out there, I mean, what an opportunity. And that's the thing is that, we talked about, CFS, but any kind of mystery symptom, and sometimes even when you're thinking you're okay and the body is compensating and you have the energy, but it's right before breakdown. I think it's just a good thing to analyze and see where you're at. And it's like you have a lot of cancer patients that fly in from a little bit all over to my center, and I always say the best cancer is the one you never get. And so prevention is always so much better and so much easier, because now you're dealing with essentially a body that hasn't completely broken down or shut down, and you have then more resources to use to heal. So I would urge everyone to take advantage of this gift, and thank you so much, Miguel. I mean, this was amazing, and for what you're doing to the world and changing people's lives is phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here, and keep on doing what you're doing. Keep on changing lives and saving lives.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me on the Dr. K Show. I hope today's episode sparked new ideas, challenged your perspective, or inspired you to take a step toward a healthier, more empowered life. Remember, you can download my free ebook, The Science and Spirit of Transformation, right now. It's waiting for you in the show notes. Don't miss this resource to deepen your understanding and continue your journey of growth. If you enjoyed the show, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a review, follow us, and share this episode with friends or family. Your support helps us bring more enlightening conversations to listeners like you. Until next time, I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt, reminding you to live with purpose, curiosity, and courage.